So if you watch the regular Real Life Architecture channel, you know that I make content that's relevant to homeowners in the UK. You know, things to do with the planning process, building regs, construction costs, how long does it take, how much does it cost, that kind of thing. But this is a separate channel, the Real Life Architecture vlog, where I'm going to talk about as wide an array of topics as I want to. You see, the YouTube algorithm can kind of, well, punish is the wrong word, but they don't really support channels that have broad interest. So this isn't really about getting a huge number of followers and making a lot of money from advertising. This is really just me talking about things that interest me personally and also as an architect. So I wanted to start the channel off on a topic that affects just about everybody really, and that's mental health. I had a serious mental health crisis over the whole course of this year, and ultimately it started 2 years ago with projects that were starting to go, let's just say, the way nobody wanted them to go. We had clients, contractors, the local council, all starting to make really daft decisions. It's not one job that's gone wrong, it's a series of things where ultimately I was losing control of the process, and people were making decisions without consulting me that could have had severe financial and legal consequences. I'm not going to go into the details on this. Let's just say a small number of jobs didn't go the way anybody would have wanted them to go. And as a consequence, I've become ever more stressed. And this came to a head at the beginning of this year, and it surprised me because it had a visceral physical reaction. I stopped sleeping, and I do mean literally stopped. There were nights where I got no sleep at all, and I haven't had a full proper night's sleep this year, really. I'm medicated, I'm on beta blockers for anxiety, I've got sleeping pills, which I don't like the idea of taking because they are addictive, but if it helps you get through the night, then that's something. But they don't always work. And I work alone from home most of the time, and I'm sitting at home, my wife's at work, my kids are at school, and my gut, my stomach is in knots. My hands start shaking involuntarily. I just can't stop them. I've gone to the doctor about this. I've gone and spoken to medical health professionals. They've been really useful. They've really sat down. They've heard me out. They've listened to what I've had to say. Now, I've been in business 15 years. I've always worked alone. I've always done projects for homeowners. And for the vast amount of that time, I've really enjoyed what I've done. And I've produced some interesting projects along the way, and I'm happy with my career. But I think over the past 2 years, certainly over the past year, with people making really just daft decisions or doing things they shouldn't have done and taking control out of my hands, it's got to a point where something in my mind has just flipped. Earlier this year, I had an episode where I had a series of meetings lined up in Edinburgh the following day, and I got zero sleep that night. Now, normally I'd go to bed 10:30, 11 o'clock, get to sleep, and this year I've been waking up midnight and 4 o'clock, just habitually. I'm having nightmares. I'm even shouting in my sleep, according to my wife. This is very unusual. We've been together 18 years. This kind of thing just doesn't happen. So this day, I've had no sleep. My wife is really worried about me. She gets my father-in-law to drive me around. And I get on really well with my father-in-law. He's a great guy. And we're going from place to place. And if you know Edinburgh, we're on the West Approach Road heading towards Lothian Road. And I'm in the car. It's slightly too hot because he likes to have the temperature up higher than I do. I can't breathe properly. And I'm just start to freak out. I had a panic attack in the car. I'm desperately trying to find my pills. Not that they're going to do any good in the short term. And I'm hyperventilating, and I'm at the point of nearly crying. A few days or a week or so after this, I'm in my kitchen. It's, 4:35 in the morning on a Sunday, and I'm seriously contemplating just jacking it all in. Just shutting the company down, resigning from ARB, just no longer doing this at all. And it really got to that point where, at least in my head, I thought if I could just make it all go away, I could get a decent night's sleep, I could stop worrying. I had no concrete plan for what to do in terms of a job or income. I've got some savings, but there's, what am I going to do? I have got the real life architecture business on the side, and it does make a decent amount of money, but it's not enough to live on. My friends, my family, they've all spoken to me, and it's been fantastic. You really find out who your friends are when you have something like this happen in your life. And I've decided, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take one day at a time. I'm starting therapy. I've been using the Headspace app, which my wife suggested, and if you've not seen this, it is an app that teaches you how to do breathing. And when I heard about it first, I thought, this is a load of hippie nonsense. Turns out it actually works. So, you put on your headphones, you sit in a comfortable chair or lie in your bed, and you just go through the breathing exercise in through the nose, out through the mouth, and they talk it through with you, and they have a whole series of meditations and exercises. It is not the kind of thing I would have done previously, but it has had an immense positive impact. I use it regularly. Sometimes I use it multiple times a day, and it's been good. The medication, it is helping. I really dislike the idea of taking pills. I've never been able to swallow pills. I'm 43 years old, almost 44. And my whole life, I've never been able to swallow pills. I've always crushed them. It's horrible. This time around, I'm taking so many, I've actually learned how to swallow a tablet, how to swallow a pill in one go without chewing it. It's now become something habitual in my life. Yes, it works, but in the ideal world, I don't really want to be on pills indefinitely just to get through the day. The other thing that's been happening in the background is, over the course of this year, is that I've gone from being very busy professionally to not having enough work. Now, if anyone, whether you have a job or you run a business, the idea of not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from is deeply terrifying. Now, I've got a plan, I've got on top of it, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I've been in business 15 years, I've got a big network of people I can call on, which I've done, and I've been able to generate new leads. And I'm just one guy, so it doesn't take much to keep me busy. I would only take on half a dozen jobs a year, typically. But I'm also thinking I want to take on smaller jobs. I don't want to be taking on the £500,000 house extensions and internal refurbishments, or at least not as many, because that's where the stresses and the problems and the things going wrong, and the supply chain is bigger, the number of subcontractors is larger, and it's caused chaos in my life, probably since 2019. Since before COVID, I've been working on a succession of jobs, each one bigger than the last, and that's part of the issue. So 15 years in business, one thing it has taught me is that these sorts of things happen, okay? Problems come along, and I've had it before, and I've dealt with it. And I've had points in my business life where there hasn't been enough work, and I've learned how to deal with it. So at least in my head, I know I've been through this before, I can get through it now, it'll be okay. But the lack of peace of mind, the absence of peace of mind I've had this year has just absolutely been unprecedented. It's like nothing I've ever had before has been like this. And what surprises me is how deep an impact it's had. There's been no one triggering event. It's not like I'm being sued or have any kind of claim against me. It's just a gradual accumulation of shit in my business life has led to a point where I'm just struggling to deal with things. Now I'm getting on top of it. I'm getting on top of the business side of things, personally and professionally, and I'm taking one day at a time. But the reason I'm making this video, in part, is to just say that it's okay to talk about this stuff, and that if it does happen, there is help out there. Don't turn something down just because you've never done it before. You might surprise yourself. There's a lot of resources. Talk to people. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, and particularly for guys, we're terrible at this. We just bottle it up. I've been on the phone to everybody. I think my friends are probably sick and tired of hearing about this. They know every detail of every job that I've got and where things have not gone the way they should have gone. But I just thought, as a first video, as a first vlog on the new channel, this topic affects everyone. Now, I'm going to make more videos on a wide array of topics. If you want me to talk about anything, opine on something, just let me know, put something in the comments, and I will happily talk about it. Whether it's the weather, my hobbies, what I had for breakfast, the channel is going to be as wide and varied as possible, whereas the main channel on real life architecture will focus exclusively on topics that really just affect homeowners in the UK. So it's quite niche, and it does what it does. And I suppose the other thing to say is the real life architecture business is getting to a point where it's growing, and I can see it growing further and becoming a significant part of my life and my income. So I know that if there were other architects in the position I'm in, they wouldn't have that necessarily. They wouldn't have a second business that makes up a decent proportion of their turnover. So I am lucky. I've got my wife and kids, I've got my health, I've got a good network of friends and professional contacts around me. So I'm fortunate. If you are going through something like this, talk to everyone, talk to anyone. Just speak to people and let them know what's going on in your head. Losing your peace of mind, and it's not something I took it for granted. That's what's going on here. I took peace of mind for granted, that you can wake up in the morning and you're pretty certain everything's going to be okay. For this year, I've been waking up at stupid o'clock, and I'm pretty certain that as soon as my eyes open, even before my eyes open, it's in my head. Oh my God, the business is going to go down the tubes. Someone's going to come and get me. I'm sitting in my house, literally shaking because it's adrenaline. It's fight or flight. And I'm struggling to focus. I'll be honest with you, this is not how I pictured a midlife crisis playing out, but there you go. It's not something anyone should have to suffer through in silence. And my wife has been really worried about me. My friends have been really worried about me. I've had people checking in on me, it's touching and it's wonderful. And ultimately, I suspect that's what's going to help me get through this. Roadworks, as a first-time topic, I think it's something that's important. It matters to everybody, but I'm going to make content about everything and anything, whether it's politics, whether it's my professional opinion, my career, money, whatever it is we're going to talk about. It's going to be as wide-ranging a channel as possible. And if it doesn't get that many views, that's cool, that's okay. And the reason that I'm filming in the car, by the way, just to clear this up, is because I spend a lot of time driving. I live in this little village here in Northeast Fife. It's a wonderful place, but it's about 45 minutes to an hour's drive from Edinburgh, and that's where the vast majority of my work is. So I'm back and forth all the time, and I was wondering, well, what can I do that would make use of that time? At least 2 hours a week spent commuting back and forth. And I thought, why not just stick the GoPro up there and spiel? Just opine on things. So there you go. That's the first vlog in the Real Life Architecture vlog. I hope you liked it. And if you have any topics that you want me to talk about, or anything you want me to do some research on to talk about in my next vlog, let me know about it. Put something in the comments and I will do my best to get back to you.